Good morning, it's Randall with the Philippines Project, and this morning I want to talk to you about a potential sensitive issue or an issue that a lot of expats will run into if you decide to retire here and you have a Filipino wife or girlfriend. How do you deal with a Filipino extended family here in the Philippines? And what's it like to have an extended family here in the Philippines? Okay, this is just a raw video. I don't really have any pre-planned script or anything like that set out. So I'll just tell you about my experience. When I first met my some of my Filipino extended family, first of all, it was my mother-in-law, and that went okay. Uh, that was probably my first real situation where I had to actually deal with my then wife or my wife's actual family. So, you know, it uh, it was somewhat challenging at times as far as just understanding the culture, and that's a big thing about dealing with your in-laws in the Philippines, your extended family, is understanding the culture. It wasn't until I don't know several years ago that she actually came from the Philippines into America, my mother-in-law, and started to live with us. Okay, so that was different. Of course, at first, everything is like, oh, we're so glad to see you. Everything was great. But there's always going to be a clash of culture. Okay? There's always going to be some things you don't understand about dealing with extended family in the Philippines. Number one is culture. They have a completely different culture, and unless you're just an extremely accepting, understanding person, and I consider myself to be pretty much that. But still, I ran into a lot of things that I thought were kind of difficult. When she first moved there, just simple things like, every little bit of money she got, she wanted to send back home. And, these are the kind of things that you'll deal with. She wasn't used to modern conveniences, appliances, stuff like that. Uh, just simple stuff like you have a non-stick pan and she'll use metal utensils and ruin a pan. I mean, that's just going to happen. Remember one time she tried to put a metal rack in the bottom of a microwave. Well, she never had a microwave before. She didn't know. But these are the kind of little things that, you're not going to understand, or it's going to be a learning process for you and for her. And so that was like back and forth. That was some things like that. And Nana, she was a stubborn lady. She's a lady with a huge heart. Okay, she really had a huge heart. She had no education, just very little, if any, education. Could barely read, and not really write that well. But having said that, she was talented in a lot of ways. She was an excellent cook, and she liked to cook Filipino food. She'd sit at the counter all day, chop, 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 chop. I mean, sometimes I'd be laying in bed at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd hear chop, 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 and like 3 or 4 hours later, what are you cooking? Oh, just vegetable, whatever. But she'd spend hours and hours in the kitchen, and sometimes I'm like, well, when are we going to eat? But it just took her a long time to do stuff. So these are cultural things, little things. It might get on your nerves a little bit. I don't know. The fact that they never want to throw anything away. That's another one. It's still good. She'd say, still good to. Like, no, I want to throw it away. I remember one time in particular, I had a bunch of long white tube socks. I used to wear years and years ago when I lived in America, and I worked for a boot company. So I still have several pairs of cowboy boots back in Missouri. I don't wear them anymore, but I had these socks, and they'd been in my drawer probably for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And you move them around from place to place, and they were older. Every once in a while, I might put on a pair of boots or have a reason to wear the tall socks. But I just thought they're just taking up space. I'm gonna get rid of them. So I take them in the kitchen trash, and I put them in there, and I come back later, and she's got them all out. And I said, no, I want to throw them away. Oh, still good, still good. And they always say, I'll send them back to the Philippines or whatever it is that she didn't want to throw away. Oh, so very expensive in the Philippines, These kind of things are back and forth. It's like I had to tell her when I throw something in the trash, I want it in the trash. I don't want you taking it out. I don't care if you think it's still good. I don't care. I want it in the trash. It's my stuff. It's my decision. It doesn't cost you anything. I want you to stay out of the trash. Don't pull anything out of the trash. So this was kind of a back and forth, little aggravating thing from time to time. And back when we had our cleaning business back in the early days, she would go with my wife and they would clean houses. And the nice people at the houses would always try to give her stuff. Of course, she was ecstatic. And maybe a 2 or 3 yards of fabric. It may be some old thing that they didn't want anymore. But these things kept coming back to my house. And shoot, I'm just like, you got to stop taking stuff home. And me and my wife both told her, you can't keep bringing stuff because it just stacks up. It's a never ending clutter after a while. So, and I hate clutter. My wife doesn't like clutter. So these are the kind of things, because she grew up poor, things like this were not easy to come by. So it's like free. It's like this is like getting paid. So there's a lot of cultural differences between Filipinos and people that live in the West. And those are some things that you're going to have to understand. You're going to have some understanding on your own, and you're going to have to realize where they're coming from. But at the same time, and I mean gently, you can't, I don't think you should be a jerk about any of this stuff, but you should be firm but nice. Smile but firm and be nice. It's the same here in the Philippines. Uh, Now we live obviously here in the Philippines most of our time since I retired, and so I've got see one, two, three, four people on one apartment on this side of the house, and then I've got two, three, four, five, six people on that side. So there's ten people and sometimes more that live downstairs. Now I'll have to say they really respect our personal space up here. They really, really do. People say, "Oh, I can't believe you let your Filipino family move in and they just take over your life, and you're going to spend money and spend." I'm sure that happens in some certain situations, but it goes back to the, smile and be firm. If I pay for the house, I pay the electric bill, they pay the water bill, and they need stuff from time to time, and I'll give a little bit, but there's a limit to what we will do. So we have to put our own limitation on that, and you have to be nice, but you have to be firm, and you can't give it all away one day and then not give it away the next day. You have to be consistent. So that's money issues when it comes to dealing with your extended family in the Philippines is an interesting and sometimes challenging aspect of retiring in the Philippines if you allow the family, even if they don't live with you, they live close by, possibly and most likely because, as I said in the last video, and I'll put that video up here, family is really one of the most important things in the Philippines. So, having said that, money is one thing that you'll have to deal with. And I'm lucky, I guess, in one sense, that my wife is I wouldn't, she's not stingy, that's not the right word, but she's very measured in her approach because we're trying to teach them a new way of living their life. In the Philippines, most people, if they've never had any money, they're going to spend up everything they've got. They're really just thinking about the day. They're not thinking about tomorrow so much. They don't think that far into the future. So my brothers-in-law, they're in their 40s, and the wives are in their 40s, and we could afford to spend a lot of money on it. And we do spend some, but we're trying to teach them a different way. That's not an easy thing. That's not an easy struggle at all. But, they do okay, but you do have to really set your limits and, and everybody's different. I feel like I've got it pretty well made. They respect our wishes, they respect our privacy. They don't expect us to pay for everything. They just don't, and they're very shy to ask. Sometimes, what you'll run into is, hey, can you pay for it and then I'll pay you back in payments? Well, we've had varying degrees of success in getting paid back. Uh, Sometimes we didn't get paid back. And I'm not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars either. I'm talking about smaller amounts. Uh, it just depends on the individual, and you'll learn more about people as you deal with them. So, if, for instance, if I loan somebody money and they never paid it back, or they only paid partial, and then they come asking for more, say, well, no, and I'm not the one that says no, it's my wife, but we agree, and that's the most important thing in a marriage, that you agree that you two are the ones making these decisions. She has to respect your opinions and your standards, and you also have to respect hers. So, it has to be a combined effort between you and your Filipina. That's the most important thing. My wife, even before she was my wife, I talked to her on the phone in Singapore, and she'd say something like, about relationships. We're talking about relationships, and she'd say, "Well, communication is the most important thing." And I just smile a little bit, and but she said that a lot, but it's very true. It's very true. Communication is the most important thing in your relationship with your Filipina. So together, you set those boundaries with your extended family. Now, what's the positive side of having an extended family? Well, I'll give you one little example. On my motorcycle, my new Honda ADV 150, I wanted to mount a GoPro uh, camera stand on the Honda, and so I thought, well, I'll just do it myself. I got my tools out a couple weeks ago. I took the mirror off. I put it on my Kawasaki, so no big deal. I bought two of them, and they're swivel and they'll move around. They'll hold that GoPro really nice, or they'll hold the phone camera really nice. So I thought I'm going to put it on my Honda. So what's the positive side? Well, when I got down there were actually two bolts, and I don't have a workbench here. I don't have a vise where I can clamp it in there really tight. And there are two bolts that are together that you have to take apart in order to slip that little loop that you put on the mirror stand, and it has to go between two bolts. I couldn't break those apart. I don't know why. It just, you can't get a really good hold on it. Again, I didn't have a vise, and so I was having a hard time, and just sweat pouring off of me. I was afraid I was going to bust my knuckles, so I thought, shoot, I'll just take it to a motorcycle shop, and they got the tools, and they do this stuff all the time. Probably for 50, 100 pesos, I'll just pay somebody to do it. Well, I never got around to it. Well, Arvin, my brother-in-law, was here this morning, getting ready to go back to Guimaras, and so I went downstairs and I pulled that mirror off, and I said, "Hey, can you take this apart?" Well, he got the little wrench that I use and the other crescent wrench I was trying to use, and he couldn't do it. Well, if you know anything about Filipino culture, he's not going to stop when it doesn't work. I call that the Filipino concept of until. How long will he work on that, and you know, to get it broke apart? He's going to work on it until it breaks apart, until he gets it loose, and then it's going to work. And I know that about him, but he wasn't having an easy time. He came upstairs. He borrowed uh, my vice grips. He got a bigger crescent wrench, and because he's working under, I call it the Filipino concept of until. He's still working on it. He's going to work on it until he gets it apart. Well, he came up a little while later, and he said, "Oh, Kuya, it's okay. It's okay." I said, "Oh, you got it apart?" Yeah. I said, "Okay. Well, I'll mount, the camera holder." "Oh, no, don't worry. I've already got it done." So I haven't been down there to look at it, see if it's the way I want it. But the thing is, that's a benefit. These things, I could do it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to buy a little bit more tools. I'd like to have a little bench here, workbench, but it's just something I didn't have to do. If you say, hey, I want to get some onions and garlic or whatever for a meal, or pick up some pork or chicken, whatever. Hey, Arvin, can you run to the store? Oh yeah, go yeah. Just give him the money. He'll run to the store. He'll bring back and he'll give you the change. You don't even have to leave the house. Or you could say, oh, you know what, everybody, we need to clean up the porch today. And so they'll get two or three kids involved and they'll spray it all down. They'll clean it. All you have to do is ask. I've never run into a situation where I send maybe Diane a message down there or my wife, hey, do you guys have any cooked rice? No. Any kani? You know, I've never run into a situation where they didn't. One of the girls, Flo or Joy, they'll run it upstairs. We have rice. They're, they don't mind doing. In fact, they do our laundry. You know, if I wanted Michael to run and go pay the bills for me, he could do that. You know, if we need to send money to the Philippines, we still do that sometimes, even today. Like we'll send money in one of their name. They'll go to the Palawan pawn shop. They'll pick it up. There's a lot of things that you don't have to do here, and in fact, that's a danger of having extended family because really anything physical you don't really have to do. I mean, they will if you have a good relationship, they'll clean your house. They don't clean our house. On rare occasions they might if Flora asks them to, but she likes to do it herself. She's got a different standard in what they do. She likes to do it herself. And I do. I pitch in and I help and I clean sometimes too. We had a cleaning business for several years, so it's not a big deal, and we like things a certain way. But anyway, that's one of the positive sides. There's a lot of things you don't have to do. You can leave your house, and there's always somebody here. So you've got security. You've always got somebody here. In the Philippines, you don't want to leave your house, even if it's locked, and everybody in the neighborhood know that there's nobody home. Now, will they break in? I don't know, but it's just a common thing. It's like our property in Guimaras. You don't want to leave it unattended. That's why we're building the caretaker house over there. If you want to find out more about the caretaker house, I'm going to put a video right there, our latest video on the caretaker house. So these are just some pros and cons. Another positive is the family relationships. Again, I told you about the last video. It's got a lot about, the cultural difference between Western families and Filipino families. Filipino culture dictates that the family is very important, and the relationships that you build, not just with the brothers-in-law, that's a great one. The sisters-in-law, they're both sweet as they can be, but the kids. I mean, I'm 62. I'll be 63 this year, and we've got a 6-year-old niece downstairs, and she's got two younger brothers or two brothers. They're a little bit older than her, and then Joy. She's the oldest in the house on that side, on Argon's side, and I just man, you just can't put a price on those relationships. And on the other side, there's John. He's older. He's 22, 23 years old. He works every day, so I don't see him as much. But you could ask him to do anything. He's always around, like family gatherings. If I need some water, boom, send a text. He goes, gets the water, brings it back, carries it up the street. They don't like to see me do anything. I've started where I carry my own water. I go get it. I just like doing it. But that is a danger that they won't let you do anything. So you need to learn. You need to keep doing some things yourself. But the positive side, in the relationships, in my situation, really far outweigh any inconveniences, any financial contributions that I may or may not make. And this relationship is not so much about what's the family like. If they're a bunch of jerks, if they just are, then don't move close to it. Stay somewhere else. And there are those families out there, and mostly what I've heard is horror stories about, oh well, they're always running into our business. I wake up and the mother-in-law will be looking at us in the bed, and they borrow this and swear they're going to pay. I bought them a motorcycle. I bought them a pickup. You know, but all these tragedies, all these things that sometimes expats complain about, did you give them the money? I mean, where is your responsibility in this? You're the one that turned loose the money. Now, again, that may go back to you and your wife, you and your girlfriend. You have to be together on this. That is the one main point. You have to be at one with your partner, no matter what. Otherwise, the family's going to cause a conflict between you. And you need to find that out before you ever marry a Filipina. And if she's always trying to get you money and she takes her family's side on everything, and you can see that right away. I don't care how much you love her. I don't care how beautiful she is. I don't care how much younger she is. I don't care. You need to get away from that relationship because you're going to have problems going forward. And if then you go ahead and you marry her, all things will get better. It's just like any woman, any relation. If you're a woman, it's just like any man. You have to make that choice honestly and with good, reasonable judgment before you sign that marriage contract, or you're just asking for trouble. Don't blame that on the Filipina. Don't blame that on the Filipino family. You take care and you do your due diligence in selecting the proper relationship, and your road will be smooth in your marriage as you go ahead. I enjoy my relationship with my extended family so much. And, when we're back in Missouri, I get to see my family sometimes, but they're all busy. I mean, all my kids, they work 40, 50 hours a week. The grandkids, they're going to school. They're off at babysitters. And then when the weekend gets there, everybody just kind of falls in a heap and they want to rest for a day. Then you got about 8 to 12 hours where you might be able to visit somebody. And then they got a lot of different people that they got to visit. But here, you have that deep, rich family environment and relationship is possible here because it's just a number one priority. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any comments on maybe you have the family relationship, you have troubles, or you have, something great to say about it, go down in the comments below. There is a membership button down in the middle. It's a black button below the video screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, that's the simplest way to do it. Also, if you notice, the only dating site that I recommend to meet Filipinas is Christian Filipina. And there are 2 links in the comments for Filipina, meeting a Filipina, and also one if you need a visa service. Maybe you're in the U.S. and you need a good visa service, they can provide that. Just click the link, it'll take you to their site. And if you haven't ever met a Filipina, this could be your lucky day. So go down there, check those links out. Also, if you just want to support the channel, you just watch, just hit the join button. Again, I appreciate everybody that's been subscribing lately. I just can't tell you how happy that is. I said in my last video, I've actually met some of my subscribers, some of the people that view my channel, and what a great experience that was. Yeah, there's Chuck, and there's Carlos, and there's Steve. I met these guys, and man, I actually met another subscriber, his wife, in the hardware store when I got back from Guimaras. So, so you guys, if you're watching, big shout out. Go down and make a comment or a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.